How are we all doing? Everybody okay? All right. Next question. In 2006, Palestinians in Gaza overwhelmingly voted to elect Hamas as its leadership. For 18 years after that landslide win, Hamas has remained their political leadership. The Hamas Charter, the published mission statement of Palestinians' leadership in Gaza, explicitly states their goal is the extermination of every Jew in the region, and I believe it says in the world as well. The question is, I don't mean to be presumptuous.
But you're stating things as fact that aren't factual.
Okay.
That's not fair, though.
Okay.
You can't introduce something as a fact and then ask me to respond to it as if it's true when it's not. It's actually unfactual.
Then we will revise the question in response to that, and I will say this. The Hamas Charter, which is the mission statement of the Palestinians' leadership in Gaza, states goals. Does the Hamas Charter prove that a substantial majority of Palestinians in Gaza want to ethnically cleanse Israel of Jews and commit Jewish genocide?
So, by the way, I wasn't fact-checking you on your Hamas thing.
It's okay.
No. You just said that an overwhelming majority of Palestinians voted for Hamas. Do you know how many Palestinians voted for Hamas?
Well, it was certainly a majority.
It was not a majority. You're wrong. It was 43%.
Continue.
But do you understand how saying that was a majority would give the impression to the audience that more people voted for them than not? That's not my opinion. That's a factual error.
If you want to support that fact, then please do.
Okay, 43% voted for Hamas. 43% is less than 50%. 50% plus 1 would be the majority. It was a plurality. Most Palestinians did not vote for Hamas as a matter of fact. If you want to look it up, Google it right now. You got all these fancy machines.
Just to be clear, I did Google it from
Understood.
PDS, from Wikipedia, and I saw a different.
What you're looking at is I'd love to see that, but
okay.
but Palestinians in Gaza voted for Hamas at 43%, right? Let me hear me out. More than half of the Palestinian population is under 18. The last election was in 2000, 18 years ago. Yeah. That means that not only did most Palestinians not vote for Hamas back then, almost half of the population wasn't even alive when there was an election. So not infinitesimal, but a very small percentage of Palestinians right now even voted for Hamas. So let's just start there. That's just not true. The second part of your question, though, is two things. One, the Hamas doesn't literally say anything about exterminating Jews around the world. It just doesn't. Again, that's just not true. But the original Hamas Charter does talk about war, and you're right, and it does address Jews in particular. Now, where this gets complicated and interesting is two things. One, I'm assuming you mean the first charter, not the revised charter. Because it's a little strange to me that we would be basing Hamas's politics now, not on the current charter, but on an old charter. The old charter made it very clear that their war is against political Zionism, and it's a nationalist movement, and that they don't have an issue with Jews, and that they took issue with anti-Semitism. Let me be very clear. I don't support Hamas. I don't think Hamas is an effective leadership model. I don't think Hamas is a moral leadership model. I'm not defending Hamas. I am simply defending an untruth that was just presented as if it were a fact. If it were up to me, Hamas would not be in leadership. If it were up to me, Fatah would not be in leadership. If it were up to me, none of the leadership models would be in leadership because they haven't been effective or moral. And every time I've been given an opportunity to engage them or speak to them, I have challenged them on this. So please don't turn this into I'm defending Hamas. But what I will say is the Palestinian people are not fighting against Jewish people as a religion, as an ethnicity, or as a global diaspora. What they are struggling against is Jewish as a national identity and as a proxy for Israelis. And this is why it's very, very complicated with Zionism, because what Zionism has done is conflate Judaism and Zionism. And so when you pull out your Israeli ID, for those who have it, your nationality is Jew, right? You have a citizenship as an Israeli, but your nationality is Jew. Yours would be Arab if they ever gave you the blue passport, right? Yours would be Arab. Someone else would be Druze. And so when what they're struggling against is a colonial occupation. They're not worried about Jews in Egypt or in Brooklyn or in, where are we? San Francisco. They're worried. I'm sorry, I've been long night. I've been flying for like 10 hours. They're worried about specifically Israel.
Thank you.
Look, I'm not going to argue if it was a majority or a minority, and I don't need to go back to 2006. Why going so far? Let's just look now, where not only the Palestinians or what's so-called Palestinians, the Arabs and the Muslim world behind Hamas after October 7. And instead of differentiating themselves from this barbaric attack that did not differentiate between an infant or elder, between a Thai worker or an Arab worker, killed people indiscriminately by the name of resistance against the occupation and the right of self-defense, etc. The Arabs choose to side with Hamas and give Hamas legitimacy and give Hamas support. And they made this about Palestine instead of looking at things for what they are and say, you know, this does not represent us. This was the moment of actually voting for truth. And they failed big time. And I think it could be one of the biggest failures up to now. If the Arabs stood and said, this is a savage group and what they did was crossed all the lines, I would be very proud of the Arabs who were born in that region. But it looks that most of them, the vast majority, support Hamas in their hatred against Israel. Now, is it a matter of worldwide or not? Do we need to wait until Hamas manifests? And by the way, Hamas is the Muslim Brotherhood. What I would like to see from the Palestinian people, what they call themselves Palestinians, they can be Palestinians eventually if they insist on this identity, a colonial entity, as their national identity. I will not argue with that. I think it's disrespectful to them, first of all. But if they insist on it, I say, then no problem. How about you establish a nation? Agree on a leadership. Stop discrimination against the black people. Stop honor killing. Give women equal rights. Stop child abuse. Stop using children as human shields. Stop gambling with the generation's future to achieve political agendas. And stop living in the diaspora as a billionaire in luxury while the people living in despair. Show me a constitution. What so-called Palestinians don't have a constitution of their own. It's borrowed from Jordan. And honor killing in this constitution is not a crime. A father or a brother would kill his sister or his daughter, they are not imprisoned. Stop discrimination against the Jews and accept Israel's right to exist. If we have those foundations, then we are talking about a nation. And I don't care what you're going to call that nation. Then we have a legitimate leadership that we can negotiate with, and we can achieve our goals.
Clarifying question. Does Israel have a constitution? Yes or no? I'm just curious.
Are you being funny?
Yes or no? Does Israel have a constitution? It's an awkward moment. They don't. So I just want to start there. So there are many critiques you've just offered of Hamas and of Palestinians and of societies in general that I would probably agree with you. We should stop honor killings. We should stop female genital mutilation. We should stop corrupt leadership. we should stop all those things. I think everybody should have a constitution. Just for your edification, Israel does not have a constitution. Also, you may not know this. It's kind of a very deeply kept secret, but Netanyahu might be looking at some criminal problems too. Itamar Ben-Gvir has been, through the criminal legal system, convicted. There's lots of corrupt leadership everywhere. We could look at a guy here with orange hair. I'm just saying, let's not act as if there's only one place that has corrupt leadership. There's corrupt leadership everywhere. I agree with you that I'm sorry, we got so far off the field. What was the initial?
Yeah, we're talking about.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. This idea that if you just acknowledge Israel's right to exist, Hamas, that everyone will play ball is also just, it's inaccurate. It's historically inaccurate. Palestinians, long before there was a Hamas, Palestinians did acknowledge Israel's right to exist. They first did so in 1967. That's what UN Resolution 242 and 338 were about. Yes, I'm going to move up. I'm going to give you each moment. You know how you started in 1948 with your grandmother in the Nakba? I'm doing the same thing. I'm starting here and going there. So when you look at, before the Oslo Accords of 1993, another moment, ostensibly at state building and peace, they asked Arafat again, do you acknowledge the Palestinians' right to exist? For him, it had already been dealt with in 242 and 338, but he said it again, we acknowledge it. In fact, they had to write what they called letters of mutual recognition, where the PLO, which at that point had been identified as the sole representative body of the Palestinian people, did what? They said, we acknowledge Israel's right to exist. And you know what Israel wrote back? We acknowledge the PLO as the representative of the Palestinian people. And you know I'm telling the truth. So the point here is...
I didn't say that.
Yeah, we were talking about the Hamas charter at one point, right?
Right.
And
but you realize he went all the way off the field and he went an extra 2 minutes, so I'm trying to address his point so it doesn't look like I'm not engaging him.
And we also were talking about
so everything I'm saying makes sense.
If
you hear me out, you'll understand what I'm saying. I'm saying that he's saying that Hamas's issue is that they won't acknowledge Israel's right to exist. And I'm saying there have been every moment in Palestinian history where Palestinians have acknowledged Israel's right to exist. The outcome has not been what he's suggesting it would be if they would only acknowledge Israel's right to exist. So what I'm saying is logically consistent. There's a clear through line here. But what I'm saying is if we move forward to now, because I'll fast forward back if there's one. The idea, again, that Hamas is unilaterally or uniformly endorsed by all Palestinian people, I think is a misreading of of Palestinian civil society at a moment where they haven't had an election to know. And you also don't hold people accountable for election choices that they made. That was Al-Qaeda's argument. Literally, was that American people deserve to have the World Trade Center blown up because we voted for policies and people like George Bush that created this awful world. What an awful idea to say that we're responsible, that our children should die because of the election choices we made. But this election choice wasn't even this cycle. It was 18 years ago. Those babies that are dying in Gaza right now had nothing to do with Hamas's election. So no, I'm not going to hold them accountable for that. What we need right now is is a ceasefire and give people an opportunity to have fair and free elections and then see what they decide.
I'm going to ask you both at the end a little bit about your visions of the future. So we'll get to that at the very end.
Okay.
Yeah, because I really want to hear it. Yeah.
I'm sorry to say this, but we're not going to allow Hamas to have a second chance. They must be removed from power. And I am into this war until the end, no matter what it takes. I lost everything in this war. And I have nothing else to lose. And we will not stop. I'm part of it. This is my war against the devil, who has been using these children you're talking about as human shields, who has used them first war, second war, fifth war, and this time we're not going to allow them to repeat this. War crime, it's a capital crime that is requiring capital punishment. And this is not according to the United Nations or to the US government. I said this from day one in the war, that this is according to the laws of the desert. the constitution of the desert. It's written in a different plane. So whether you like it, you disagree with it, this is what's happening right now. Hamas must be removed from power by the authority of the universe. So let's not cry for the children while we are not considering how do we remove Hamas from power. And the ceasefire serves only Hamas, because we did this 5 times under the international pressure. And what happened at the end? Hamas gained more power, more money, and now they doubled down by taking hostages. There is no ceasefire. Ceasefire will happen when Hamas is removed from power completely. And the Palestinians or the Arabs, the Arab children, are free from Hamas. My philosophy, my individuality, I say the Arabs must be free from all concepts, including the concept of Palestine. I will never empower the concept of Palestine at the expense of the children, especially when there are so many con artists using this terminology to keep burning the children as fuel so they can become billionaires.
Thank you.